Hey, I wanted to make this particular episode because I had a bit on my mind. I thought there's a lot that kind of gets overlooked with regards to the developmental elements of a person, whether it's a business, whether it's an idea, whether it's a relationship. There's always certain phases you go through. And I had someone ask me the question. They said, why should I have somebody in my life who's a mentor or who's a coach or who's giving me guidance counseling when I could take the time and work on myself? And I thought it was a very pertinent question because really, why spend all this money on this professional person to give you skills that you could take your own time out and figure out on your own? So with the program that I've been running for a little bit, kind of going between clients right now, I thought I'd just record this video and put it out there to highlight the need oftentimes for a consultant. Now, many businesses who have a long-term vision or that have a big enough team to understand that one person's contribution is not enough, you usually get an external individual who's able to look at whatever you're working with objectively and give you an answer that's going to be both favorable and productive in moving you forward. So if you were to say, I've got 30 days in which I want to become better in my business, I want to become better in my relationship, I want to become better, whatever, I would say, yeah, go ahead and find somebody who can give you that direct consulting or can give you the access, the mentorship, the guidance that you're going to need to tap into that potential. And I'll start by saying that the gift of having somebody who can look at you objectively is that it minimizes assumptions, right? So if I'm coming in as an external individual into your life and I'm getting to look at what you're doing and who you are, I don't really have the assumptions that you have based on the life that you've lived. We tend to be very hard on ourselves. And as a consequence, we underplay our capacity to deliver. And this is why I've always found affirmations to be so powerful, because until you can understand just how much you're working against yourself, both in business and in your personal life, it makes it really hard to gauge the blind spots that you're not seeing, or more precisely, the amount of potential that you're not tapping into. And it's a vast percentage. I don't want to get into stats right now. So, a consultant, an effective consultant, should be able to come in and understand who you are, understand the client intimately. And then you should be able to feel as if they are talking your language because they are at the heart of what's bugging you in that moment. And they should be able to seep into your mind and sleep with your ideas and basically just completely make love to whatever problem is going on and in the hopes of birthing a solution. And really, they have to get to the heart of it. A lot of the times, I'll be talking to some of my clients, and we'll get into like really heated, frustrated arguments because you have to get to that pain spot and you really got to highlight it and say, this is where things are going wrong. And you find that both in business and personal life, people tend to take their egos and wrap it around this idea. So when you minimize assumptions as a consultant, your most important skill you start to realize is being able to listen. And your biggest asset is being able to observe and pay attention to what is going on. What does this client need? And thinking on your feet is really powerful. So the qualifications that you get, whether you're an engineering consultant, whether you're a business consultant, whether you're a lifestyle consultant, or a life architect, such as my firm, what really allows you to stand out from everybody else is being able to take that theoretical knowledge, combine it with the practical knowledge that you've had, but think on your feet to be able to understand that scenarios differ and it's not one size fits all. And a lot of the times, that's really why a client might be interested or a person might be interested in getting a consultant to work with them. So being able to specialize and go into a niche and be able to understand that this is where I'm going to focus my skills, and this is where I'm going to be really the foremost leading professional. It puts you in a class above everybody else because you're able to identify the problems of that niche very specifically without really getting bogged down by being a generalist, jack of all trades. You waste a lot of time, but you don't really get to the heart of the problem. And a consultant who's a generalist is really not going to be much help to you, but someone who can specialize. So you take, for example, momentum leverage vision for new growth and the life architecture program that's been rolled out. It's basically saying that you can take your life wherever you are and give it a span of time in which you can measure the KPIs and see the development happening. Because I firmly believe that success, whether personal, business, whatever, it's not alchemy, it's a science. It's a science that can be followed. And I do believe success leaves clues. So in light of that, understanding one element and becoming really, really good at it, it's like what I always think of Michael Jordan. He spent so much time doing one thing that he became the best at it. And not necessarily because he even had any natural talent. I do believe he was kicked off the team. It's a story almost everybody knows. So once you've played with something for so long, specifically as a consultant, you get to a point where the solutions and the problems, they seem to come out of nowhere. They just come at you. And you get to a position where your competition can't really understand you because you've become the master of this little nook, this little corner. And I mean, what client doesn't want to have somebody who understands their problem fully and understands the true nature of what they need? And helping the client by using first principles, I believe it's the best way to move forward because it cuts all the fat away and you get right to the gist of what is wrong. So today we're going to be addressing what life architecture really is and how that applies as a consultant and why you would need a life architect to help you move ahead and find your feet, whether it's in business, whether it's in your interpersonal relationships with the opposite sex, whether it's in dating, whether it's in your sex life, whether it's in your health and well-being, whether it's in your finances. The whole point of a life architect or a lifestyle architect is to break it all down and get to the fundamental groundworks or the foundations of what builds a successful individual, what makes a holistic person more successful than the person who never even takes time to address those elements of themselves. So a lifestyle architect or a life architect is somebody who understands the nature of what it means to be a man, but he understands it from a practical, applicable perspective. Because a lot of the times you find that people get bogged down in the philosophical, theoretical part of living, and they forget that living is living. And it's somebody who's able to look at your life objectively, look at your business objectively, and break it down to all the pain points. Because as per the 80-20 rule, there's 20% of the things you're doing that are yielding 80% of your results. And we tend to get so attached to these things in our personal life, whether it's people, whether it's projects, whether it's Lord knows whatever. We tend to get so attached to them. We cannot walk away in a healthy capacity that allows us to cut off the things that are holding us back from getting to that next level. That may be paradigms, and that may be behavioral characteristics, that may be habits. And breaking these requires a certain level of accountability that you cannot really get if you don't have a person who's, I won't say nagging, but who's able to be present and be objective with you and help you to maintain a schedule and a timeline, and understand that their role is not so much to coddle and hold your hand and babysit you. Their role is to help you overcome that personal barrier that you cannot objectively look at yourself. It's like taking off a band-aid. It becomes really hard to do it yourself, but when somebody else has to rip it off, they can do that without worrying, because they're not necessarily going to feel the pain, and it's going to be painful for you, but it's going to be beneficial too. Hmm.